Bhagavad Gita chapter 2 and text number 22. So this is a very, very nice verse. You can memorize this verse also. Vasamsi jirnani yatha vihaya navani grinati naroparani tatha sarirani vihaya jirnani anyani samyati navani dehi. Vasamsi jirnani yatha vihaya. The point is, when the clothes that we wear, vasamsi jirnani, vasamsi is like garments, jirnani is like getting old. So the garments that we wear, they get old, they get tattered, they get torn. What happens is, like when they get old or worn out, what do? We give them up. We give those old garments up, and then we take up to the new garments. Navani granati. So we take the new ones. Naroparani, so like us. So tatha sarirani vihaya jirnani. So it is compared that just like we take out our old clothes and put on the new ones, similarly this soul leaves the present bodily dress and takes on to the next new dress as a new body. Anyani samyati navani dehi. Just like we take out our old garments and put on the new ones, similarly the soul gives up the old ones and accepts the new material bodies. Change of body by the atomic individual soul is an accepted fact. I mean, it is very clearly understood that when the person dies, we know that the person has left. We know that the person has gone. The person who was living in that body, and that was causing the body to animate, that was causing the body to move and everything else, is no more there. So we should not believe that soul does not exist, because there is no amount of material combination that could give rise to the existence of soul or life. Because if that was so, there could have been lives possible in the labs, since quite a lot of time now. But they have been trying since a lot of time, because soul is not a product of matter. Soul is a distinct element and matter is a distinct element. Matter can be manipulated by soul. Soul cannot be manipulated by matter, or soul cannot be created by matter. Matter is created by the soul. For example, there is a tree. The tree produces sap. So the tree is living, and the living tree would produce sap or barks or fruits or flowers. Similarly, we also produce a lot of things. We produce sweat or urine and stool and things like that. And also we produce out of our intellect creative things. We produce houses and all those things. But that is basically manipulation of matter. We do not produce anything. It is just manipulation of matter. That means the matter was in a different shape and we gave it to a different shape. It was earth and it became a building. It was sand and it became a silicon chip, something like that. So we just change the shape by using our intellect and as per our need. But it does not actually necessarily means that we create something. We just change the form. Using the intelligence or whatever it is, we just change the shape as per our need or as per our utility. Atomic individual soul is moving from one body to another, and that is because of the grace of the super soul. It is only possible with the grace of super soul, because the next body is formed because of the past activities that we have created for ourselves, and somebody else is working to create that body. We are not working. We are eligible to get that body. We are not working to create that body. We have worked already, and that body is being created as per our previous work. That's called getting the new body. Super soul is also responsible for fulfilling the desires of the atomic soul. That means we desire and the super soul fulfills that. You may say not all desires are getting fulfilled, and that's fine, but then it's like, we will get into that in a while. But in a sense, we should understand that whatever we desire, there is a possibility that can be fulfilled. There are different scriptures like Mundaka Upanishad and Shweta Upanishad, where it is compared that two souls or two entities sitting on a same tree. That means two birds sitting on the same tree. One bird is busy eating the bitter and sweet fruits of that tree. Eating the bitter fruits, the bird suffers, and eating the sweet fruits, the bird enjoys. So we undergo some pain in our life, that is like a bitter situation. We undergo some happy situation in our life, that is like a sweet situation. But we never turn to the super soul. That's the precarious condition that we are undergoing now. Because we don't turn to the super soul, we are still engaged in this bitter and sweet fruits of this living body, in this material world. And the moment we turn our faces or turn ourselves to the super soul, the material inabilities, the material things will all fall apart. All will come to an end. And we will automatically be situated in a much more blissful state. But the situation is that we are engrossed in enjoying and suffering this bitter and sweet fruits of this material world, or compared to this material body as a tree. Although the super soul and the soul are kind of friends, one has forgotten the friendship, the other still remembers. Super soul still remembers the friendship of the soul, and the super soul is trying to get us back. But the soul has forgotten the friendship of the super soul, and the soul is trying to be separately engaged and trying to enjoy the bitter and sweet fruits of this material world. That is why it is becoming very difficult for people, for us, to understand that how do we get out of this cycle of suffering, enjoyment, where the enjoyment is very, very meager and the suffering seems like insurmountable at times. And at times it seems like there is no end to suffering, and at times it seems like there is no suffering. Some people think or feel that there is no suffering, but there is suffering, they eventually understand. And for some it is like a continuous wave of suffering that continuously perpetually going on for a long period of time, sometimes years, decades together. So the moment we decide to turn ourselves towards the super soul, towards the God, and that's where the whole solace lies, and the process is given in the Bhagavad Gita here. So the bird who is engaged, the soul who is engaged in the bitter fruit tastes, that means suffering from the bitter fruits of the material world, we should realize at a certain point that this bitterness and sweetness is a part of this material world, and this is going to keep on going. And we should not be under the illusion that we should be able to enjoy only when there is suffering. There are some theologians who speak in that way, where they say that unless there is suffering, how do you enjoy? Now, it is a misnomer. So, do you have any difficulty in having continuous enjoyment? Or do we need some kind of suffering so that the enjoyment is enhanced? If we think that suffering enhances the enjoyment, then to some extent it is right, but we would not like to suffer for the sake of enjoyment, but rather we would continue to enjoy without having any break of suffering. For that, we will have to understand what is enjoyment and what is suffering, and the material enjoyment is also suffering. How do we understand that? It is also mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. The more you enjoy anything for that matter, you can eat more, you can sleep more, you can do anything that you feel like doing more, or that you feel like you are enjoying, you will eventually understand that that particular thing is causing more suffering than the enjoyment. So to understand that there is nothing called as enjoyment in this material world. Everything is ultimately suffering. So if we think that we need some suffering for the enjoyment, then it is just a misnomer. It is an illusion that we can think that we will enjoy better if we suffer more. No, every enjoyment has got suffering within that. So let's see the next one.